Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-affleck.
And it is time for...
UnSpun. Not friendly. Okay.
Keeping our droplets to ourselves.
We're still social isolating from each other kilometers apart. The last, 6 months now? It's been 5 months? I don't even know. 4 months?
Yeah.
Crazy.
It was March, right?
Yes. And now masks are still a thing.
They're a thing, and let's have that conversation in a little bit. Because I really do
think...
an
announcement. Yes.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. That's a huge announcement and a lot of temperature taking, if you will, about mask wearing.
Yes.
But I want to take the temperature on something I know has you hot under the collar. Jordan Bateman, our good friend at the ICBA, tweeted how much he enjoyed our extended UnSpun podcast segment the other day on CKNW. You went off on Strathcona on the park board. I mean, it's a theme, George. But the level of anger and angst that you have towards people's inaction here is palpable at this point.
Yeah, well, and I get a lot of hate for that too, but it's challenging. I mean, you get elected on a mandate, and you have the roles and responsibilities that you're supposed to uphold, and you go and do something else. And I don't think it's fair to the taxpayers and the people of the city, or when you don't do your basic job. And it's not only a park board, it's a council too. They've lost, for the most part, barring a couple of councillors, their focus of what they're supposed to be doing in our city, but especially the park board. I mean, it's just out of control. And Oppenheimer Park being, of course, the epitome. And I talked about, we know this playbook now. It's so predictable, and yet we continue to let it happen. And of course, the solution is complex, yes, but are parks the place we should be permitting massive tent cities to grow? Because we know, and it's already happening, what will happen next? There'll be violence, there might be death, there is already crime happening. There are threats, including threats to a city councillor, that are caught on tape, as it were. This is not a solution. This is not a solution, and it's a neglect of your responsibility, in my mind. You are not a housing minister when you're voted in as park board, and stop trying to pretend you are. You're got the wrong job, buddy.
One of the pieces for me, because you're way more well-versed in the political piece of the puzzle here, but as a member of the voting public, I'm looking at the current park board in a way that I can't believe how drunk with power they are, running down the wrong path. Like that, no, that's not your path. We need you over here. We're taking care of our parks is your priority. Like, instead it's like, no, we're gonna shut down this, and we're gonna push through that, and we're gonna make this not
we're gonna study this, we're gonna study that,
delay that, and against.
But we'll put bike lanes through a park that nobody wanted, like that. I mean, what about the new community center in Marpole, the new community center for the West End, the new community center for Dunbar, the new community center for Hastings Sunrise? What about Southeast Vancouver and the community center that's supposed to be built at River District? What about that? What about the parks that are sitting there without playgrounds, that are incomplete, that are crap for my kids to play on? What about that? What about that? They're not doing it.
I feel you. They're drunk with power on all the wrong things. I'm sorry, but that's what it feels like. I'm going to swing my vote way differently and more discerningly. And the people who earn my vote better know I'm going to be on top of it, and I'm going to be watching it like never before, because I've been lax in doing that in years gone by, because I trusted those who were getting things done. Like when the Blodell Conservatory was at risk, and John Cooper stepped in, and the park board made it happen and fixed it and saved that piece of history and of my childhood for my kid, for future generations. That's the park board, not shutting down Stanley Park, ruining the businesses, and closing the seawall to cyclists. There's nobody on that seawall. There's nobody on it. Nobody. It's awful. It's summer in a pandemic. Nobody's using it because, you're not allowed to ride your little cruiser bike around because we're too busy clipping into our road bike, this much of the tax-paying public gets to use that now. Great.
Yeah, but then
I'm so mad.
They're arguing back at you is, what about golf? What about golf? And that's always.
What about golf, George? Golf is one of the few sports right now that you can actually super safely do with very little pivot. My 83-year-old grandfather, my 83-year-old, my son's grandfather, golfs regularly without any fear at all. He can't go to the pub. He can't go to the Legion. I don't even want him going to the grocery store. I really don't. But I have no problem. You go golfing every day. It's his favorite thing. Golf.
Yeah. But, we're going to put houses on golf courses instead. No. That's what the park board wants to do.
The majority. So, Ed, let's go back to houses. Let's go back to housing and houses.
Housing.
We did something about. Tell me about navigation
centers. That was the big announcement, and that's the mayor is hanging in the park board going, fantastic. This is the solution to Oppenheimer Park. No, it's not. 60 units. The navigation center, basically, it's kind of an in-between, to get social housing, and it's like directing people. Okay, you're homeless, go stay here, and so it's safe, it's secure, and then we'll get you a home. Just give us some time. So it's great. It's good. Interesting concept. But it's 60 units max. We don't know where it's going to be. It's going to be not built for another year, 2 years. 60 units, not enough for the 300 tents that are at Oppenheimer Park. So, okay, great. It's a nice spin. Just get everybody talking about this instead. While we still have the 300 tents, for how long? We don't know. The mayor won't say what he's going to do, where he stands on this issue. Well, it's the federal government's fault. It's the provincial government. Federal government, it's everybody else's fault. That's what Pete Fry is saying, and everybody's saying this. The navigation centers, I don't know. They're in San Francisco, and some people say they're successful. Others are saying no, they're not, because they're seeing about a 15% placement rate from these navigation centers. That means 85% of the people are just staying in them. They're not leaving. And so that makes them permanent housing. I also wonder if this term navigation center is a euphemism for really institutionalization. I mean, that's
right.
Always the challenge that we've had, is this de-institutionalization in the 90s, when they closed a lot of the mental health care facilities, which were many atrocious for sure, but there was no plan after that to deal with all these people that now are on the street and still have mental health issues, or are drug addicts, or there's a whole generation of schizophrenics and bipolar, significant challenges in their mental health capacity, who are now aging into what? Where are they going? If your parents die, this is a problem. The foster care system, still a problem. All these things are still a problem.
Still a problem. In a pandemic.
That directly relate to the homeless issue. And so when you point fingers at the federal government and you point fingers at the provincial government, you also have to point fingers at yourself. And the only role the city truly has in this issue is policing. I mean, they're not housing, they're not healthcare. That's not their file. Their file is parks. That's park board's facility job to take care of the parks. Cities, one of the jobs is policing. So is that an argument for us to police Oppenheimer Park? Perhaps. They announced today that they're adding 5 more police officers to their patrol.
In Strathcona, you said Oppenheimer. Strathcona, yeah.
To deal with the increased crime. The data is interesting. The crime data is sort of all over the map. There is more calls, like a significant more calls from Strathcona Park itself, but the numbers for the neighborhood are actually pretty stagnant from the year over year. So the neighbors, it's interesting, but also we have COVID, and overall crime is down big time because of COVID. So it's this dilemma we have with, they're pointing fingers and they're not providing solutions, and they're not doing their responsibilities. But the navigation centers with 15% placement showing in San Francisco, that's not a solution to housing. That's a Band-Aid. And
right.
What is the solution?
What about San Diego? Do they have the navigation thing as well? San Francisco is one.
San Diego, in an article I was reading there, and I posted it on Twitter today. There is a process or facilities that they're putting in San Diego that are much more strict, much similar to what's the place on Hastings?
Oh, Union Gospel Mission.
Union Gospel Mission, which has a very strict criteria. If you're in there, no alcohol, no drugs, you got to clean up, you got to do, and then we'll find housing for you. these facilities in San Diego are following that same kind of criteria. They're seeing 85% placement of the people who move into these temporary facilities, because they're cleaned up, and then they're able to find there's more options for them for where they can move to. You know, if you don't, if you're a drug addict and you have mental health issues and, you know, other things going on, there's not a lot of places. Social housing won't take you, like regular social housing won't take you. Certainly market rental won't take you. So, you know, what do you do? Where is this? It's great. It's 60 units for 50 and 15%. So that means, you know, 10% of the 10 people will find housing of the 3,000 homeless people we have now. I mean, this solution, it's
untenable right now. It is absolutely untenable.
Housing is not the solution, though. You know,
housing is not the solution. And what you were saying before is with regard to what happened when our institutions, as bad as they were, when they were shut down, all they did was just erase those plate roofs, right? The problem, the people that need the help, the issues around our shortcomings with supporting people with mental health issues and helping them and guide them, get them the help they need. Because as Sarah Blythe, who I've spoken to many times on the Downtown East Side at the Overdose Prevention Society, has said, there were a lot of people who just had mental health issues that found themselves homeless, who became drug addicts because, hello, you have to spend 24/7 outside living on the mean streets. You're going to want to escape that. And you're going to want to medicate away from that. And that's what's lost in this. It's like, well, we just don't have houses yet. It's like, how about with all of this money being pushed out from government at all levels in a pandemic, where is the rescue for the people who are dying in greater numbers from the opioid crisis than COVID-19 in this province? Like, it's as though, well, they're fine, you know, and then because you get heat for calling out homeless camps for being, you know, dens for crime and violence, and someone's going to die and it's bad for the neighborhood. All of those things are true, but you're not saying don't help those people.
No. And what happens, and we know this for a fact, and the police have said this on the record, they've said, this is not, this issue, and specifically in Strathcona, is a policing issue and a healthcare issue. It's not necessarily a housing issue. A lot of these people have homes, and they've chosen to come here. They're campers. There's 50 campers parked down there. What's happening is it's consolidation of an issue, which is homelessness. They're consolidating in one location. We don't have policies that permits that when we build housing. We build generally in the Western, you know, countries. There's been a decision to build social housing and spread it out and not have it in one area. They tried that in the 60s and 70s, and it created, what did it do? It created ghettos. So there was being decisions by councils around the world that we don't want to create this sort of ghettoized neighborhood thing because it causes a problem. In effect, that's what we are doing on a temporary basis by allowing these tent cities to grow. We are creating a kind, and the word ghetto has a lot of negative connotations for a good reason, because it's criminal, it's in drugs, well, that's what's happening. They just happen to be in tents. But these people are homeless. Yes, potentially, a lot of them are. But generally they were perhaps somewhere else, or they were spread all over the city or all over the region. I don't know. But they weren't the criminal behavior that it's encouraging and causing, and the horribleness that happened at Oppenheimer. I mean, rape and mutilation. I mean, unbelievable atrocities that are now, this woman who did some of these things has disappeared. She's jumped bail and she's gone, and so they've got a warrant out for her arrest. And this is horrible. This kind of stuff. This is what's going to happen. So that's when we make our decision, when somebody gets murdered, or, you know, there's several drug overdoses and they die in that space because you can't get to them. That's not responsible government. That's irresponsible.
We're going to stay on this file, George. We're going to keep talking about it. And hopefully at some point there will be action taken, meaningful action taken. In listening to Mayor Kennedy-Stewart on with Linda Steele on Wednesday afternoon, Linda pressed him toward the end of the interview to say, will there be some kind, will this camp be removed? Will some solution be found by September? And after sort of waffling a bit, Linda pushed him and said, I need an answer, yes or no. And he said no.
No, unless they get somebody decides at Park Board to get to move forward and have them leave. They don't even need. We know they don't need the the piece of paper to say get out of here. They can simply do it. It's within their realm of responsibility, as the judge noted in the last time we went through this process at Oppenheimer.
So frustrating.
Anyways, but and it's
so frustrating.
This is, and pointing fingers again. This is a generational problem that decisions were made in the 90s with healthcare and housing. Federal government bailed on housing at the same time as the provincial government changed the institutionalization process, and no safety nets were put in place for those two things. So both policy systems that we had for a long time were taken away, and nothing replaced them. And so and now we have 30 years later, a generation that have grown up without that system in place, without the policies that create housing, without the policies that provide safe places for people with mental health issues to live, not to mention the foster care system, which we know it represents a huge portion of the people who are homeless who've gone through the foster care.
Aging out. Yeah. No, it's
these are the things that the data,
we got to stay on
all there. It's all there. The answer is there.
Which makes it
not housing. Housing's one of the tools. One.
I just can't believe that the people, the horticulturalists and the landscape designers are the ones that are allowing this to happen.
Yeah.
Like, you look at the bios of the people who get to make this decision as a majority in the park board, and that's their forte, and they're making decisions about this. I just can't.
There's an irony, given that they're neglecting the horticulture of our parks.
Right.
The irony is thick.
The irony is broken. I've got a wild moment from radio today to share with you, because I had the opportunity to start the show. I'm filling in for Jill Bennett this week, so noon to 3 on CKNW. And they started the show with Kevin Desmond, the CEO of TransLink, had his press conference about making masks mandatory. There it is.
For those who are listening, I had a mask on at the beginning. That's why I was, just in case.
That's right.
Forget we have an audio audience sometimes. But
our audio audience is larger than our video audience, which is quite interesting. But if you're listening driving right now, George was donning a mask off the hop. That's because it's a topical piece. And listening to Dr. Henry's briefing on Tuesday briefing, where she really got in the Q&A about, or was it yesterday? Wednesday's briefing where she got it. Sorry, my dog is
going to town out there.
Okay, so my dog was barking and my internet's shoddy. So here we go. What I was saying is Dr. Henry's briefing, it was Wednesday, listening to the Q&A where she was being pressed about mandatory masks on transit. It's been a very hot topic. She's been asked about mandatory masks on numerous files, but the one on transit, and she's very clear, I don't want to make anything mandatory, and it's not even really my jurisdiction to do that for TransLink. TransLink can do that all by themselves. And I absolutely endorse the idea that on transit, where clearly physical distancing is an issue, that people wear some sort of face covering. Right. That is the safest possible tack to take. And it was like the underline there was DBH saying, make masks mandatory, guys. Like, just do it on transit. You want ridership is at 40% because people are afraid to go on buses and trains and sea buses. So if everybody was wearing a mask, people would likely be more comfortable getting into those spaces. So today, Kevin Desmond, the CEO of Transit, made the announcement that is in fact coming into place on August the 24th. And then we had Gavin McGonigal, who's the Unifor Western Regional District Unifor union leader. And we know from the back and forth of TransLink and Gavin from all of that almost strike that happened what feels like a year ago, but only a number of months ago. He actually came on with me and he said, I kind of agree with Kevin Desmond here, because he was saying, our bus drivers should not have to enforce this, but it is the right thing for us to do. So it is kind of asking society to do the right thing. It
is a dilemma. If you've ever been on a bus and seen the abuse that a lot of bus drivers get, I can see how they would be like, oh God, another reason for people to yell at me. Or
worse.
Yeah, or worse. And we've seen some video of that craziness. And there are a lot of anti-mask people. I think that by mandating it on the buses, and I wouldn't want to mandate it, everywhere. I think let each company, and I think Walmart now requires it, or Costco. There's a few places. Where did I go recently?
Yeah.
Somewhere I think.
Costco,
yeah, there was
and Walmart or two.
Yeah. Actually, was some of the stores on Robson Street in Vancouver. They were, some of the clothing stores were all mandating it, and they give you masks. Unfortunately, buses probably won't give you masks when you get
They
off.
are going to.
Oh,
They're gonna make some available. They did the initial.
Okay.
And then they're going to try to, I mean,
the logo
cost
opportunity
associated
for a corporate sponsor. Get the logo on the mask and you get yourself money.
Look at, see, Curve Communications, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by.
Or ads on there.
But it also, the jumping off point, so there will be, like kids under 5 don't have to wear masks, and people who have medical issues that make it difficult to don and doff them, or don't have the ability to do so, or it's an impediment. You can actually get what's similar to the hangers on your car that give you access to the disabled parking. It's a similar card that you can get that you can show, and then, but it's up to us not to police one another. So again, it's that COVID cop, COVID-idiot thing.
I think people will be like, I hope that people are just like, simply will say to somebody who's just refuses, hey man, that's not cool.
Right.
You know, and then just move on. I don't want to see any screaming fights going on. Like,
no.
You know what, if somebody wants to say, I'm not going to wear a mask. You know, it's like, ugh, okay. Whatever.
Did you hear about that group out in the valley that's like getting together and doing the anti-mask thing, and they're encouraging hugs? They're like anti-vaxxers, George. I mean, I can't even with the crazies.
How did that work?
Yeah, I said that.
Presidential candidate that
I know.
is now no longer with us.
Oh, sparkly things, going to heal the world with positive thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Schools, we both of us with skin in the game, literally, on the back to school plan, and Premier John-Horgan was asked about the back to school, the BC plan today.
Pushback last week, and the teachers were saying, we're not ready. We talked about that last. Yeah. So what do you say?
Well, basically, you know what? Interesting, because the teachers, the pushback, there's somebody who has started a petition, and like 3 days ago, the petition was at 2,000, and now it's at 25,000 signatures. So not insignificant, but as you've said numerous times, George, petitions are often more symbolic than anything else. It definitely is a talker. I believe that the Premier today, the tactic that John-Horgan used today in his communication skills was very, moderate and measured, and trying to say, you know what, is there no risk? Of course there's risk. We're in a pandemic and it's not going away anytime soon. It will eventually, we hope. So let's take the steps forward to make some short-term necessities come into play. But he's like, we got to take one step and then we can adjust. So we've got 30 days to get to the first day of school. We're all going back to school. Yeah. And then once we get there, this is like a Monty Python freaking episode.
Get in the house with do they have a key, and do they have opposable thumbs because they can open?
No, it's my significant other that has just completely lost his marbles on the fact that I'm recording this right now. But that's okay, because guess what? We're working from home. Yeah, I can make it through. So, but what I liked about what
everybody knows, live to tape. We're just
live to tape, man. Live to tape. Here's me.
The only time we do an edit is when it's really, really weird. So
yeah, no, this is fine. Dogs are fine.
Yeah.
But what my point being, John-Horgan was really coming at it and saying, listen, what really rang with me, he goes, we're anxious. We all are. I get it. He's like, my daughter-in-law is a teacher. My son is a teacher in a different jurisdiction. I get that they're anxious. Kids are anxious. Parents are anxious. What is it going to look like? I don't know, but we're going to all put our children first. And the really important piece is the unintended negative consequences of keeping your kids out of school. So
we know what those are.
It is. Yeah. And then Terry Mooring, the BCTF president, who always makes herself available. I have to say she is unwavering in saying, yes, absolutely, I will be there, and all questions are on the table. We talked it through. She sounded a little less stressed than a week ago when it all kind of seemed to flip.
Right.
She didn't see it coming.
She was kind of like a bit all over the map on you.
Yeah, and she got caught off guard. I think the BCTF got caught off guard. They thought one plan was going through, and then they flipped the whole script, right? Yeah. So now she's speaking more aligned with all the groups, with Dr. Henry. She keeps reiterating that she trusts the
I haven't seen the opposition pushing on this either. I haven't seen
right.
So, I mean, that's always an interesting sign. I think we've proven in BC and mostly across Canada that the politics of COVID, or, you know, put those aside. There's the economy, you know, the impact of COVID on that. That's all, you know, heating up for sure.
Yeah,
but
and fair enough.
Generally, we have this respect in each province and nationally for our, you know, chief doctor, wherever they might be, and we just go, okay. And, you know, Dr. Barney Henry's saying go. Then you have the premier and the leaders of the opposition who have to make their decision politically. And so far, most of the big issues we've been seeing good alignment. It's just not a very effective, successful political strategy to, you know, be all together on the thing. It's, you know, you got to find your wedge issues eventually. But
look at your unspunness is showing. You're like, oh, I wanted this to be political.
Give me some material here.
Give me some meat. Give me some meat.
So, but it's, you know, it's true. And, you know, as you started, we're parents. We're looking at September, and I'm going, I know I'm a pretty amazing teacher.
No,
not my job. You know, let's get these kids back to school, just for me.
Right, let's get the kids back to school and also adjust, right? Like adjust where need be. How lucky are we in British Columbia to even be able to consider safely returning to in-class learning? Like that's where I feel as a parent, if they get back to school and the numbers start to go up and I feel uncomfortable, pulling it back, we're pulling it back, and we'll figure it out from there. And if we have 2 weeks, an incubation period where we have to get everything set up and online and whatever, then that's what we'll do. It is going to be a very unusual school year. And as long as we all understand that and calm down, like we just need to calm down because we need to move forward. And the first step is listening to the science. And when Dr. Henry says this is what we should do, let's listen to her. Let's listen to her.
So far, so good.
I know, I feel like that. Quickly, before we go to my column, I'd like to talk to you about the return of sport. As of right now, the Canucks in the driver's seat in their want to get into the Stanley Cup playoffs. How are you feeling about it all?
Stop it. I mean, I'm not a sports follower of much. You are. But I understand the Canucks have never won a Stanley Cup, correct? Is that right?
Yeah, 1915 is the Millionaires, George, if you're challenging my sports knowledge, but no, they haven't.
Close. I mean, I was with CBC when the riots happened. I remember that was fun.
Did we work together at CBC then? I didn't know that.
It was like 94, wasn't it?
Oh, 94. No, the 2011. Different riot. Different Stanley Cup.
Yeah, different Canuck game. So,
anyways,
there's a lot of people who are concerned about this sport thing, and there's the 20 cases in the Florida, what are they called? Florida? Marlins. Baseball? Correct? Baseball. Gotcha. So that's
take this story, George.
I know. So there are people that are going, you know what, maybe too soon for the sport thing. But the Canucks or the hockey thing is isolated. They're kind of creating their world. Whereas I think you said that baseball, they're doing their tour. Is that what it's called?
They're still traveling. Yeah, it's really, really weird. Baseball is like, are you kidding right now? Like that to me smacks as more of the cash grab that has no real plan associated to keep everybody safe. And baseball is a large community for each team, and the travel is nuts. But what the NHL is doing, and I think maybe doing right here, is having the 2 hub cities and having all these games every day. People do need a distraction. As much as for me, it's not like capturing my soul at this point. I'm a huge sports fan. But there are people that Jim Robson used to say to the shut-ins and the people who can't get out to games, you know, making the shut. This is for them. This is for those who have little else to make them feel connected and good about things. So that's kind of where I okay.
Well, they start making Riverdale again, I guess, you know, all I've got is sports.
All you got is sports. Oh, yeah, because you're not traveling unless you're doing so in beautiful British Columbia where you're going on vacation, right?
Well, there's a big fire up there, though. And I asked a friend, is that close to where I'm going? They said, like, no, calm down. But going to the little family trip.
Would you go to Maui? Would you go to Maui in September?
I would go in January, which is when I would like to go. I would go in September, not to Hawaii, but
you'd go on a plane? Yeah. See, I'm not.
Not with the kids, but I would go. Yeah.
Oh, I see. You leave the kids behind.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm going on a holiday.
So in my middle this week,
I love my children, but I did have the homeschooling thing really took it out of me.
Yeah, no, you're done now. You're like friendly, yay, happy birthday, get out. My column this week is about air travel, and it caused quite a stir, mostly from people who work in the airline industry. They weren't pleased with me because I was pointing out some of the shortcomings of you know, why when everybody else is being locked down, shut down, sent home, put into like, you can only do these things within these orders, and then air travel's like, we're selling the middle seat because we need to make money. It's like, what? And then every day there are flagged flights, and it's like, wait, what? You know, and our community spread is at risk. Like, our community is very low virus.
Don't follow the rules, which is to isolate for 2 weeks. But we had 3 workers at the airport today announced that had caught COVID from somebody
Screeners.
else. Who got, you know, they caught it from somebody. And so, yeah, I mean, there's that risk. But you can't, I mean, the airline industry, while as an industry, obviously it's impacted, but we also still need people to get around for other reasons.
No doubt.
We still, you know, I have to get my Amazon packages somehow, you know.
But that can be in the belly of the plane. I'm good with that. They should pay for it going instead of it being the travelers who are paying for your cheap Amazon stuff coming to you in a day. But my thing was about what Dr. Henry, that's the closest I've seen to her being mad.
Oh, really?
Was when she was talking about the right? Calm it down. No, but she was referencing, because somebody challenged her, I believe it was a CBC reporter who challenged, you know, we're hearing from the airline that they've reached out to the province and that they've offered all the information. And she started with her giggle. Yeah. I wish I could show you the manifest that we get, because it really definitely does tell you exactly what the person in that seat paid for the seat, but doesn't have their name or their phone number, or like there's no contact tracing on a manifest. So it would be so nice, federal government, it would be so nice if they just made that one thing mandatory. Fill in this card, or, you know, read your document. I mean, we have apps for that now in ways that you can
download the app that you can see if somebody's got COVID beside you. So because your Bluetooth's on when you're in a flight, then we'll know right away.
COVID alert.
Have you downloaded yours, by the way?
Of course I have. You know me. I take direction very well.
I love being followed by the government.
That's not what's happening, George. Hey, we got to say goodbye to the 43. It's not going to be 43 anymore.
But down to 42 at City Hall, because we're losing their head cheese. Ching.
Oh, the big cheese.
Who took it from 4 to 43.
Are you applying for the gig?
Yeah, we both should have co-applied, because together you would still be making about $200,000 a year or whatever. She makes about $250, I think.
No way.
So it's $125 each. We'll take it. That would be.
I want that job. Let's do that. Let's do that. We'll report back to you next week. We're still doing this even when you're on vacation, right?
I'm back Wednesday, so we should be okay.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Bye.